Hi, I'm Remington, and today we're going to talk about the 6 levels of content personalization or smart content. Now, when we think about personalization, a lot of times we go straight to what we were taught way back when as marketers about email, right? You have the placeholders for first name and last name and company name and stuff like that. And that's personalization. Now, when we think about smart content, we start to get more strategic with the direction and even some calls to action on pages. And if you're using a tool like HubSpot, which we are, then you're going to dig into some really awesome possibilities when you start to think about smart content. Now, smart content is essentially an opportunity for you to personalize the content to the user, whether it is by adding a first name, last name, which can come across a little creepy, or changing the context of a page. Now, out of the box, if you're using HubSpot CMS, HubSpot allows this functionality with the rich text editors and HTML editors, where you can actually choose based on list membership, based on where they came from, based on country, a lot of different areas, what you could do. But if you have someone a little bit more technical at your fingertips, like the team at Impulse Creative, then you can go in and even make it so background changes based on context. So let's dig into a couple of the possibilities that you've got. So behind me, I have almost a pyramid on how smart content can layer in. And one of the biggest things we find when we talk to clients is it's hard for them to imagine the individual layers that you could essentially peel back the onion of what smart content can be. The first thing that people go to typically is they go into this persona, like, oh, I could change my content based on persona. And while that is important and a definite part of it, it can go much deeper. So what you see in the pyramid here is it all starts with topic at the bottom. Now, when we think about the topic, that could be content that is written for a specific buyer persona, or it could be more general content, maybe even like a service page, right? So that topic is going to be something that you've put a lot of thought into, whether it's super relevant to your company or super relevant from an SEO or search engine optimization standpoint. And then you're going to, of course, write that out. Now, if you are working on building out your content, there's a structure to most content that goes into the why, how, what approach. And if you're familiar with Simon Sinek and the Golden Circle, it talks a lot about why is more of an emotional push, and then the what is more factual or more material, right? So if you're focusing on how that content is structured, then that allows for you to really create that content that has an opportunity for the future personalization we're going to talk about. So the first level is topic or content, depending on how you look at it. The next level is, as I mentioned earlier, defining by persona. So persona is the next layer of that onion. Now, you have to understand your buyer personas and your ideal client profiles before you could really dig into personas. But when you think about personas, you're going to have different, intermediary buyers or different people who are influenced by your content that you want to take action. And the big difference between those people and the generic topic that you have is that there's a context that starts to emerge. So maybe the CEO is more pressed by time than the marketing manager who is looking to be able to report on results, for instance. When you look at those two different personas, what they came to your site for or what they came to your page for and the how you deliver said service are going to be pretty much the same. But the why behind it is what is really the unlocking thing for these personas, right? So you can tie your smart content into that, and the whole page doesn't have to change, just the areas of context that tie into that persona. So then the next section of the pyramid is user story. Now, user stories are something that you hear a lot more in software development space, but user stories are really important because what is contained in the user story is the beginning of the understanding of the individual, intent, but also how that ties to the persona, right? So you could start to really bring in the problem that someone is seeing if they are that marketing manager persona I mentioned. Now, are there a variety of potential problems? Probably. So what you could do is you could start to slice off those and create that added context to those personas to further define them into those user stories. The next one is intent, right? So the intent of someone coming to a page could be very important, and it's something that you'll be able to measure if you're using an analytics tool like HubSpot. But when you think about that intent, it can vary depending on the things that you know about a prospect. For instance, I give this example all the time at my talks, a pricing page. You have a pricing page, and that pricing page is beautiful. It's got all your features and all of the details of your product or service. And you've got all these call to actions saying, buy now, we're awesome, and blah, blah, blah. But the problem is that your person that's coming to the pricing page is actually a customer. Now think about how that changes the context of that page. Are you now trying to get them to buy now, or are you trying to support them? Now, what if that context of that person is that they have a low NPS score? Now suddenly, if they're coming to the pricing page, in most cases, they're not looking to upgrade. They're probably looking to downgrade. So if you get them coming through to your website and your website page, and they go to your pricing page, but you know that there's a low score, that should be a 5-alarm fire, right? So intent is super, super important. Now, if you have an existing customer coming to other service pages on your website, now that's another good signal that they're interested in said service, unless they've got it already, right? And there's a lot of different things you can do there. Okay, so that's intent. So when you stack intent on top of user story, on top of persona, on top of your content, you start to get a really powerful engine, and it's really easy for you to start slicing away at how to make things more contextually accurate. Now, the next one, with great power comes great responsibility, right? And that's personalization. So when we think smart content, again, we think personas. We don't usually think the individual user. But after you've built rapport with your contact and you're showing stuff that's very relevant, start thinking like Amazon. So on the Amazon homepage, it's different for every single person that comes to the site, right? And it's all based on the individual personalization of the things that you purchased before, or things that Amazon thinks based on your viewing history can be personalized for you as well. Now, they can influence you in a lot of different directions there, but personalization from a smart content point of view can be showing relevant content, but it can also be leveraging problems that they have, or their name, or even their company name. In a lot of cases, people forget that. So there's a fine line between being creepy and helpful when you think about personalization, but focus on personalization and think of it as that cherry on top of that really awesome sundae. Now, the last piece at the very top of this is conversations, right? And in some cases, people think about conversations because of conversational marketing, and it's not actually a different strategy. It's a different facet of a strategy that helps you get more traffic, leads, and customers, right? And so when we think about the conversation should happen when it's ultra specific. And what I want to do is take you into this big box store mentality. You walk into a store, and the person at the front greets you and says, "How can I help you?" In most cases, most humans are going to go, "I'm good," right? And you're going to keep walking, even if you're not good. Now, if you go over to the text section, and that text section, there's someone there that's like, "Can I help you find something?" They could have the same tone of voice. Hell, they could be the same person. You're more likely to ask them for help for a direction towards something than you would be at the beginning of the store. And so where I'm going with this is the conversation should be at the top of your pyramid, not the bottom. And a lot of times people jump straight into the conversation. They forget the context of the rest of the page. So that conversation is super important. There's lots of different options for you, but if you understand the personalization, the intent, the user story, the persona, and the topic, the conversation becomes so much more effective. And as you look at your content on your website, if you are focusing your content in that personalization pyramid, then you start to really get the results you're looking for. Let me know what you thought about this video. If you have any questions whatsoever, please hit me up. I'm at RemingtonBeg on Twitter. And of course, you can comment on this video and let's keep the conversation going.